Hello and welcome here. In this video, we're going to trace how the planetary ruler of your natal 7th house reveals the hidden architecture of long-term relationship commitment. When we are young, we often choose our partners based on our sun or moon sign. In other words, we are choosing unconsciously based on our identity, our sun, or on our emotional needs, our moon. We may also unconsciously choose partners based on our Venus or Mars signs. This is especially true when we are emerging into young adulthood, and Venus can signify how we relate socially and emotionally and physically to a partner. Are our social and moral values aligned with the person we're dating? Because we are at an age where we are forming those social and moral values. Mars also brings in a physical reality. And are we attracted to our partner on a physical level, on an energetic level? Then as we mature and are looking for long-lasting and long-term relationships, more often than not, we are attracted to partners who embody the sign that is on our 7th house cusp. That sign is always going to be the sign that is opposite your ascendant. So if you know your ascendant sign, get out your charts and see which sign is opposite it. This sign is also equivalent to your descendant. So for example, if you have Aries on the descendant, you might marry hastily or marry when you're very young, because Aries has that young, forward-moving energy. If you have Taurus on the descendant, you might be looking for stability, someone who is going to ensure security in your life, and so on. Now, while I could go through all the signs, I think you know the signs well enough by now to come up with your own interpretations. Because the danger here is that astrology becomes completely put inside a box if we are always giving hard and fast interpretations. And what I'd like to explore more in this video is how the planetary ruler, not the signs, how the planetary ruler affects your relationship choices and also can empower you to make mindful choices in your life. We know that astrology is about planets first and foremost. The signs are like costumes or colors that the planets show up in, which modify their behavior but never change their intrinsic nature. Now, before we dive deeper into looking at this planet that rules your 7th house, I want to say a little something about those of you who have planets in the 7th house. Now, many of us will have no planets in the 7th house, more than half. This is completely normal, completely natural, and it says nothing about your ability to have a long-term relationship. In order to find out about that relationship, if your 7th house is empty, you're going to look to the ruler. If your 7th house has one planet in, that planet could represent your long-term partner. If you have 2 or 3 or more planets in that house, what the chart is simply telling you is that you have come into this lifetime to learn a lot around the area of relationships. You chose this karmically. You have the chart that is there to give you the tests and the beautiful experiences that you need to learn and evolve as a human being. Sometimes, but not always, those 2 or 3 planets could represent literally 2 or 3 long-term partners that you have. So depending on which planet it is, they would embody that energy. And for all of us, though, what we need to focus on is that the planet that rules the house is going to ultimately guide us as to how our long-term relationships will play out and give us a clue as to where we might find our partner, the type of partner we might choose, and making us more aware of some of these choices that we have. All of us have a 7th house ruler, and it's this planet with its archetypal meaning, its sign, its house, its dignity, and its aspects or relationships to other planets that shows us most fully the key to our long-term relationship. It shows us how things will end up for us in the relationship department. Recall that there are no negative outcomes in astrology. There are only opportunities to face which can transform our karma. Every challenge has a purpose, whether we are aware of this or not. And for those of you now who are struggling with a relationship, or who are struggling to have a relationship at all, or you're attracting the same type of unhealthy relationship over and over again, in spite of your best intentions, you could be stuck with your Moon, Venus, or Mars cycle. In other words, you could still be stuck in choosing unconsciously people who are going to play out those planets for you in relationship. You may even have looked closely at your own natal moon or at your Venus or Mars, trying to figure out what's going on. What kinds of people are you attracted to emotionally? What do you need socially? What do you need on a physical level? What type of man or woman or person are you attracted to? Sometimes Pluto can also play an important part here. Pluto sometimes can indicate where we have power struggles within relationship, and that we can look at perhaps at another time. What I'm going to suggest here is that by mindfully embracing the ruler of your 7th house, you may be able to cultivate a new pattern for long-lasting and fulfilling relationships. And note that this does not only refer to marriages or long-term live-in partnerships. It can also refer to other partnerships, such as business partnerships. If you find yourself in a repeat pattern with a similar type of business partner, same kind of thing tends to happen. You can also look to the ruler of your 7th house and see what's going on. So let's talk a little bit more about the 7th house ruler. To locate the ruler, we need to know the sign that is on your 7th house cusp. Without getting too technical, this is going to be the same sign as your descendant and the sign opposite your ascendant. In other words, it doesn't matter what house system you're using, whether it's whole sign, Placidus, or something else. The sign that is on the descendant is the same sign that is on your 7th house cusp, and this is what we're interested in because we're going to locate the planet that rules that sign. If you're using a Placidus house system, and let's say you have a descendant at a very late degree of a sign, each sign is 30 degrees. So let's say you have an ascendant at 28 degrees. of Libra and your descendant is 28 degrees of Aries. That means that a lot of your 7th house, your house of relationships, is going to have Taurus inside it because you have a late degree for that start of that house. That does not concern us, and don't let it confuse you in any way. So regardless, we focus only on the sign that is on that cusp. Doesn't matter if it's 29 degrees of a sign, it is still in that sign. And we're going to locate the planet that rules that sign to find out about our relationships. So let's go through all of the ascendant, descendant planetary rulers so we can be clear. And if you are new to astrology and you're still getting the hang of your chart, or even if you need to refresh certain archetypal energies, I'm going to place a link below to 2 videos I did on the Ascendant ruler in 2022. And each video has 6 of the 12 signs in. So find the video that works for you and works for your partner, and I'm sure those will be helpful. If your ascendant sign is Aries, Mars is your chart ruler, and you will then have Libra on your 7th house cusp. So the planet that rules your relationships will be Venus, because Venus rules Libra. And it's the same if you have Scorpio rising. Your ruler that rules your ascendant is Mars, and Venus will be your relationship house ruler because you have Taurus on the cusp of your 7th house. If you have Taurus or Libra as your ascendant sign, you are ruled by Venus, and your relationship house is going to be ruled by Mars. If you have Taurus on your 1st house cusp, think about it. It's logical. You have Scorpio on your 7th house cusp, and Mars is the original ruler of Scorpio. And likewise, if you have Libra as your ascendant sign, you're going to have Aries on your 7th house cusp, and Mars will be the planet that tells you about your long-term relationships. Take a moment to pause the video now and to look at a few charts of people you know, your own family members, and get a feeling for this. Figure out, do any of you have the Venus-Mars polarity that is ruling that relationship axis? Now start to think about those planets. Whenever we have Venus and Mars ruling the relationship axis, there's going to be some friction. No matter what, because this is how Venus and Mars are when they get together. And this is the friction that rules physical attraction and repulsion, a constant energetic movement here on Earth. For those of you who have Taurus, Scorpio, Aries, or Libra on your 7th cusp, there's always going to be a need for some kind of friction in your relationship in order for you to grow and evolve. This is what you've chosen in this lifetime. And of course, the signs and the houses of Venus and Mars are going to show how this plays out for you. So part of your mindful evolution is going to be moving from physical attraction to the embodiment of a genuine give and take, and learning how to use this friction in an alchemical way for positive growth in the relationship, rather than to simply keep it going as a back and forth energy. If you are fortunate enough to have a sextile or trine aspect between your own Venus and Mars in your chart, the sextile is approximately 60 degrees of a sign. The trine is approximately 120 degrees of a sign. This is going to mean there's a lot of ease and flow in the relationship arena, because those are harmonious aspects where the planets, Venus and Mars, are relating easily to each other. If you happen to have a square or an opposition between your Venus and Mars, this indicates that karmically you're going to have to work a little harder to balance the attraction, repulsion, friction principle in your life. These challenges are there for a reason. They are to help you to grow spiritually. The alchemy which is needed to transform the friction comes from a higher level than the ordinary, mundane level of life. So it requires mindful practices and commitment to deepening the relationship, both with yourself and with spirit, and realizing that the partnership is simply a mirror for what is going on internally. So all work in relationships begins with the self, and one needs to have a spiritual or mindful practice with yourself, which you can then take into your relationship, because it is that which will heal the relationship, not any kind of changes which a partner might make. We attract the partner that we need in order to learn things about ourselves. What about Cancer and Leo rising people? If you have Cancer on the Ascendant, you are moon ruled, and you are going to have Capricorn on the Descendant. So Saturn will be the planet that rules your 7th house of relationships. Saturn signifies long-term commitment, endurance, and deep karmic bonds between you and your partner. There will be some deep emotional work to do in relationships. Why? Partly because there always is, and partly because the moon is a very sensitive planetary archetype, and the moon represents you. It signifies who you are. You are the Ascendant and its ruler. And when we have Capricorn on the 7th house cusp, the slow, cold and dry planetary archetype of Saturn is representing your partner. So you may, for example, be attracted to someone who is older than you by quite a few years, or to someone who appears to embody wisdom. That wisdom is going to help you in your life. They're going to share it with you. Or that partner may embody security, which is something that you might not have had a lot of as a child. So you are seeking this archetypal energy within your relationship. If you have Leo rising, you are signified by the sun. You're also going to have the planet Saturn ruling your relationships, because your 7th house cusp is Aquarius, and Saturn is the original ruler of the sign of Aquarius. Is there a 60-degree or 120-degree potential trine sextile between the Sun and Saturn in your chart? Look and see if they're forming any relationship together. This is going to show you something about how you get along, how you dance with your partner. You might find with those aspects that you are good friends, and this bodes well for harmony within a long-term partnership. With an opposition or square between the Sun and Saturn, there's going to be more friction. And the mindful approach is that you chose this friction before you were born and incarnated, and that it needs to be worked out with this particular person in this particular lifetime. unless you want to carry it over into the next lifetime. And what tends to happen is that if you don't figure it out, you end one relationship and you go on to a second relationship where the same kind of dynamics play out. So there's a great need to overcome challenges and difficulties within your relationship and to make it work. And there are many people who have long-term and successful relationships who have a square with the planet that rules their 7th house and with the planet that rules their ascendant. They figure out a way to deal with this tension. And that's what's important, because there always is a way. For some people, they develop strong independent hobbies so that they can each have a unique outlet for their energy. Squares in particular need an energetic release. So if each partner is consciously channeling energy into something that is working for them, they're fulfilled and happy, and the relationship flourishes because they're not expecting the relationship to fulfill everything in their life. So for example, a Cancer ascendant might need a nurturing hobby that they pour their energy into, while their Saturn-like partner might need to invest fully in their career, and they figure things out. And it's all about figuring things out so you can clear any kind of karma between you and do what you came to do. And there's enough time in any one lifetime to do what you came here to do. One more point about the Leo-Aquarius dynamic, which is similar to the Cancer-Capricorn dynamic. But remember that Leo is working on self-empowerment, shining their own light, learning how to lead and take control in this lifetime. And there can be some kind of friction between the Sun and Saturn, because Saturn may wish to dominate or to control that light in some way, to keep that light for themselves. So the partnership will be all about figuring out the power dynamics between the Sun and Saturn and how this can work out and continue to be a long-term nurturing and empowering relationship. And of course, what if you have a Capricorn or Aquarius ascendant? It's going to be exactly the opposite, right? So if you are a Capricorn rising and you have the sign of Cancer on your descendant, your partner is going to be ruled by the moon. Where is the moon in your chart? Go and have a look. If you've got Cancer on the 7th, go and find your moon. What house is it in? What sign is it in? What is it telling you about your partnership? Often with the moon, things wax and wane. So is that something you need to work on in your partner and your partnerships? Consistency. How does that show up in your life? And does your partner provide a nurturing energy for you? Perhaps you didn't have that energy when you were younger and now you are seeking it out in a partnership. What if you have Aquarius rising? Then of course you're going to have Leo on your 7th house cusp, and your partnership is going to be ruled by the Sun. How does your Leo ruled partner, signified by the Sun in your chart, fit into the group? And that's an important dynamic that's going to play out. Are you the one that's always making plans with others, while your partner would prefer that it was just the two of you? Find the house in your chart where the Sun sits and figure out the area of your life where your relationships need to manifest and where your partner needs to shine. For example, if you have Aquarius rising and you have the Sun in the 1st house, think about that. It's simple. Your partner, which is the Sun, because it's ruling the 7th house, is right there with you in your own house. sounds like it could potentially work well, right? As long as the partner is not over-identifying with you. If you have Aquarius rising with the ruler of the 7th in the 8th house, let's just take another example because you're going to be applying this to your own chart. That's what makes astrology creative. Then there's going to be much inner work to do in your partnership. The ruler of your 7th in your 8th house. That work that you do is going to lead ultimately to a deep transformation. The 8th house is the house of inner work, where we die to ourselves and something is born again. In a more literal sense, where is your partner? He is with his own resources and could potentially hold on to them. So how will you move mindfully through this lesson that you've chosen to learn? Something about partnerships being related to finances and to resources and to values. This will be true regardless of what planet rules your 7th house. So anytime the ruler of the 7th is in the 8th, we might be looking at a dynamic that has to be worked through in terms of resources. And this brings us to a broader point, one which is applicable to all of us. In what shape is your own 2nd house? Your own self-worth, your own money, your own resources, your own values. So for example, if your planetary ruler of your 7th house is in the 2nd house, your partner is going to be very much linked to your values and to your money. They may bring you greater status or literal wealth and abundance. Take note of which planet this is, because the planetary archetype will dictate how that's going to play out for you. Also take note of the dignity and the aspects that are linked to this planet. Are the aspects enhancing your 2nd house? Or are they indicating that there are challenges there between resources and partnership? Let's wrap the video up here for today, and I'll make a second video where I look at the other rising signs. Gemini rising, Sagittarius rising, and so on. And Virgo rising, we need to do all of those other signs, because there is so much already in this video that you can digest and start to really apply to your own natal chart. And when I wrap up that second video, I'll look at the 4 major archetypal patterns that can really exist on this axis 1-7 in our charts, and how by seeing which of these patterns we fit into, we can in some way free ourselves from repeating them. So I hope you will join me next time, and please leave a comment if any of this is resonating with you in terms of your own relationship profile. Until next time.